Today, we are diving deep into something called Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome, or PCOS for short. Now, this is a condition that affects so many people, but honestly, it's incredibly misunderstood. It can leave you feeling totally confused by what your own body is doing. So, let's unravel all that confusion together, starting right now. Have you ever felt like your body is speaking a completely different language? One month everything seems totally fine, and the next month it's a whole new story. It is so frustrating. It's like trying to solve a mystery when you don't even have the clues. Well, today that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to become body detectives. So things like irregular cycles or maybe acne that just pops up out of nowhere. What about changes in weight that you just can't explain? Or even some new hair growth? These are some of the most common clues your body might be sending you. And yeah, on their own, they can seem totally random and confusing. But when you start to see them together, they form a pattern. And that's the key. These aren't just random events, they're signals. And understanding what they mean is always the first step. So here is our game plan for this little investigation. First, we're going to decode what the diagnosis actually means. Then we'll look at what's really going on, a kind of communication breakdown inside the body. After that, we'll trace this wild hormonal domino effect it creates. And finally, and this is the most important part, we'll talk about how you can start taking back control.
All right, first things first. To solve any mystery, you got to start with the basics, right? So what is PCOS, really?
I know the name Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome can sound a little intense, but the most important word here is actually syndrome. All that means is that PCOS isn't just one single thing. It's a collection of signs and symptoms that, when they show up together, point toward a specific condition. It's all about recognizing the pattern. So how do doctors officially spot this pattern? Well, they use something called the 2 out of 3 rule. It's pretty simple, really. A diagnosis usually happens if you have at least 2 of these 3 main things. First, irregular periods. That's a big one. Second, signs of high androgens. Those are hormones like testosterone, and we'll get into that more. And third, if an ultrasound shows what they call polycystic ovaries. But here's the key. You only need 2 of the 3, not all 3. Okay, so now that we know what doctors are looking for, let's get into the why. Because at its heart, PCOS isn't really about something being broken. It's much more like a communication breakdown, like a misunderstanding between 2 really critical parts of your body. And this right here, this is the core of it all. The entire system gets a little out of whack because the messages flying between the brain and the ovaries are getting mixed up. You can almost think of it like a phone call with really bad reception. The words are being said, but they just aren't coming through clearly on the other end. Now this slide breaks down that miscommunication perfectly. Okay, so in a typical cycle, your brain sends out a very specific signal. It's a hormone called FSH, down to your ovaries. Normally, one follicle hears that signal loud and clear and says, okay, my turn, and it starts to grow. But in a PCOS cycle, there are often a bunch more follicles listening in from the start. The brain sends the exact same amount of that FSH signal, but now it gets diluted. It's spread too thin across all those follicles. It's kind of like a manager trying to give instructions to a huge crowd instead of just one person. Nobody gets a strong enough message to actually do anything. And this quote just nails the result of that diluted signal. Because the message is too weak for any single follicle, none of them can fully mature. They all just kind of get stuck in this early growth phase. And here's a fun fact. Those small, stalled follicles, those are the polycystis in polycystic ovarian syndrome. This is the real reason ovulation can become irregular or stop altogether. The initial instruction just wasn't strong enough to get the job done. So what about those high androgens we mentioned earlier? Where do they fit into this story? Well, androgens, like testosterone, are hormones that everybody's body produces. They're totally normal. But in PCOS, because the ovaries are getting these confusing signals, they can start overproducing them. And it's this hormonal imbalance that often leads to some of the physical symptoms, like acne or extra hair growth. So this initial communication problem, it doesn't just stay between the brain and the ovaries. Oh no. It sets off a massive chain reaction, a hormonal domino effect that can ripple through your entire body. Just look at this cycle here. It starts at step 1. The ovaries make more androgens. Then follow that arrow to step 2. These high androgens can lead to something called insulin resistance, which is where your body's cells basically start ignoring insulin. Now, in step 3, that insulin resistance makes the hormonal imbalance even worse because high insulin levels can actually tell the ovaries to make even more androgens. And finally, step 4,
All of this just confuses the brain even more. It becomes this vicious, self-perpetuating loop where each problem just makes the next one worse. You can almost think of it like a trio of troublemakers. You've got high androgens, you've got insulin resistance, and then you've got inflammation. These three, they don't work alone. They're like a team, amplifying each other and just keeping that disruptive cycle spinning and spinning. And this brings us to an absolutely crucial point. PCOS isn't just a period problem. It's a metabolic condition. This connection to your entire body's metabolism is why things like weight gain can be part of the picture. And it's why understanding and managing it is so important for your long-term health. Okay, now for the most important part of this whole thing. Knowing all this isn't supposed to be scary. It's supposed to be empowering. Because once you understand the how and the why, you can start to intervene. This is where you crack the case and you take charge. So, given everything we just saw about that domino effect, it just makes sense that the absolute best place to start is right here, with your metabolic health. If you can address things like insulin resistance, you can start to break that cycle we were just looking at. And you know what? The most powerful tools for doing this are often lifestyle changes. Things like focusing on an anti-inflammatory diet, cutting way back on processed sugars, getting some regular movements in. These things can directly improve how your body uses insulin. This is how you start to break that hormonal domino effect and help your system find its balance again. And here's the thing, you don't have to do it all on your own. Medical support can be an amazing partner to all your lifestyle efforts. You've got supplements like inositol, medications like metformin that are designed to target insulin resistance, or even drugs like letrozole that can help with ovulation. These are all incredible tools that your doctor might use to help get your body systems back on the right track. And I think this is such an important message to hear. Sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that is 100% okay. Needing medication is not a sign of failure. It's a sign that you are being smart and finding the right, personalized strategy to help your body thrive. So, if you take one thing away from all this, let it be this. PCOS is complex, yes, but it is not a life sentence of confusion. The frustration is real, but knowledge is power. Understanding the signals your body is sending is the very first and, honestly, the most powerful step you can possibly take. And that leaves us with one final question for you. Now that you have a much better handle on the why behind PCOS, what is one small, manageable step you can take today, right now, to listen to your body just a little more closely and start your own journey to feeling better?